Hello, and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. Today, Helen Goodman is joining us to showcase Flowlens CRM MRP. Let me tell you briefly about Flowlens CRM MRP. Enable your manufacturing clients to adopt best practice across their workflows, not just their bookkeeping. Flowlens is a CRM, an MRP, inventory and service solution that focuses on equipment, manufacturing businesses across sectors such as industrial equipment, electronics and electrical engineering, agricultural machinery, construction, and advanced manufacturing systems. So thank you very much for that. I'll hand over to you, Helen, to take it away.
Thank you very much, Heather. I really appreciate the opportunity to share the software with you. Flowlens is actually founded in Northern Ireland with the team over there, and they've been running approximately 10 years. It's a new software offering as part of the Xero ecosystem, which they joined back in September last year. And part of their ethos is that systems are not just about the technology, it's about people, process and change. So they very much work with supported technology, and that's where they were looking for a partner in Australia to provide that implementation and training. So what I'd like to do is just take you through a bit of a presentation about what Flowlens is, how it works, what it does, who it helps, so that we can obviously work through that. So let me just change my slide. So just a bit of a quick photo about me. My business is Invisible Business Solutions. As I mentioned before, I'm an original authorized cloud integrator. I'm Flowlens' implementation and training partner for Australia and New Zealand. I reside on the beautiful Gold Coast up in Queensland, but obviously support clients worldwide and particularly across Australia. If you need to get in contact with me, I have the QR code. It appears on a number of the slides. That will just take you through to my website where all the details of the apps I work with exist. So moving through to welcoming you to Flowlens and giving you a brief overview. I really appreciate your interest in the software. I understand it's not for an accounting practice, but what it will do is enable your clients to take advantage of cloud solutions and really systemize and streamline their business, as so many of them are seeking advice from their accountants and bookkeepers as to how best to do that. So Flowlens itself is an integrated cloud stock MRP and CRM software. It focuses on small and medium equipment manufacturing businesses or distributors. It's really user-friendly and secure, and it combines that CRM, MRP and servicing solution all in one package, which is quite rare across the ecosystem to have that sort of three focused app stack in one software, which of course limits the number of connectors and potential risk with that. So the software helps them to handle their sales pipeline, their parts, bills of material, stock, purchasing, the job cards to produce that. They can dispatch product, and they can also offer after-sales asset service management, whether that's part of a warranty program or even as a billable service. As I already mentioned, Flowlens is founded in Northern Ireland, and they've been developing the cloud software solution since 2006 and are proudly part of the Xero ecosystem. Okay, cool. Just move through. So just to give you a really clear indication of who Flowlens works for, like one of the key things as a cloud integrator is ensuring the right app for the right business. Whilst an off-the-shelf solution is never going to give anybody 100% of what they want, selecting the right software really is key to the process. So Flowlens is designed for equipment manufacturers, so in electrical engineering, renewables, agriculture and automotive, water treatment, material handling, diagnostics and lighting. So it's generally high value, low volume equipment. So not your buy and sell type product that would typically fit in something like Unleashed or Deer or Sin7. It's much more about a manufacturing solution. This graphic shows the UK-Australia connection and the number of sorts and types of businesses that are available are using the software currently. So I think importantly too, it's really essential to clarify who software is not for. So it's intended to be for pure fabrication businesses with low volume, high value. So if there's high volume and low value, so if they're making widgets and they're making 1 million a time, obviously it wouldn't quite work for them at all. For e-commerce businesses that just buy and sell a product in a retail kind of environment, direct to consumer. For cabinet makers and sort of furniture makers that make repetitive solutions, so buy and sell the same sort of furniture all the time. Custom made is a different ballgame altogether. And for food manufacturers, it's really not intended to meet their needs. So Flowlens integrates with Xero, with QuickBooks, and with Sage and cash flow accounting for our European partners, which I thought I'd mention, obviously, as we're a global group. But obviously focusing on the Xero integration today, one of the things I really like about the way the integration is, it's not going to clog Xero up with hundreds of individual transactions or lots of integration posting all of the data, which sometimes frustrates the tax accountants within Xero. So what Flowlens does do is it pushes data seamlessly between Flowlens and Xero. It matches the customer and supplier record across both systems. We transfer sales invoices and payment status. We transfer the purchase invoice, bills and payment status. But that's it. So there's no stock movement transaction that's something typically like Unleashed would post, a Xero value bill that moves the cost out of cost of sale or into cost of sale and out of stock on hand. So the way that's managed is by creating a month-end process, and the reporting is really detailed within Flowlens, and it's one of the things as a management accountant background I thoroughly love about the software, that I can interrogate it and find out really valuable information to assist the business to make effective decisions. So for part of the month-end process, we have obviously a recommended list of reports on stock consumed, stock on hand and work in progress, so that we can create journals for those, as well as checking the sales and purchase orders that have not been invoiced at that time. Okay, so the setup process is to some extent unique in the fact that it's not intended just to be, here's a subscription, do a 14-day trial, and then run with the software. That works for some solutions, but generally for the types of businesses we're talking about, they've got either, and there's probably two types of business. There's an established engineering business that's done what it's done forever, and it needs to move those processes into a cloud base, or there is the new and innovative solutions that are aware of how much efficiency they can gain from a cloud-based solution, so they're jumping onto that straight away. So really, it's a consultative process, and that's how the guys in Northern Ireland were supported by Invest Northern Ireland to find an implementation partner in Australia, so that we can provide that change management and training and process change for them, rather than just going, here's a software, use it. And then quite often the response to that is, well, the software is no good because it doesn't work for me, but because you're using the software in the way it's not intended to be used, or you haven't set it up properly, or you haven't populated it with good data. So Flowlens is really focused on ensuring that the solution meets the business needs. It's why we offer implementation services to support the software adoption and to assist businesses in the translation of their processes. However, my understanding of the question about how it connects to Xero is that it's relatively straightforward. Most of the apps integrate in a similar way. You log in through Flowlens, click the icon to Xero, go to settings, connect to Xero, allow access to your Xero account, and then it will obviously connect via the API, which is nice and straightforward. So it's easy to connect. What's challenging and requires support is the business management process for that. So the Flowlens development roadmap has two key features on it for 2022. So they're expanding the features for production planning and scheduling, creating a few different views of making that information more than just data, but actually quality view information. And they're building an API access for e-commerce integration. So even for a number of businesses that make high value equipment, they potentially sell parts and spares through a website. So by integrating to that directly will enable that seamless transition of parts sales post process. So that's on the roadmap for 2022. Okay, so what I'm just going to do is jump into Flowlens and give you a bit of a feel for how the software looks, and really just at a high level, what the dashboard's like and what's reporting's like. So when you first log in, hopefully you can see my dashboard coming up there. So the dashboard can be populated by user to focus on the information that's relevant for that user. So as a manager, I'd want to be able to see the tasks that are assigned to me, perhaps the number of status inquiries, the sales orders per month. I've got a list of assets on here. I can see my purchase invoice totals, but I could customize that. So if I had a manufacturing manager that was perhaps more focused just on the projects and job cards, we could have widgets just assigned to his user to be able to access that really quickly. Maybe just to ensure that everybody is across the same thing. So CRM is the customer relationship management part, and it's what handles the conversations with customers prior to them actually placing an order. But what it also enables us to do is track the whole conversations you ever have with a customer. So it's really important to be able to see how much conversation you have to have with a customer to achieve a sale, versus if you have maybe only one conversation with someone and it's a $10,000 sale, and you might have 20 conversations with someone for a $15,000 sale. Which one's actually the most effective? And that's the sort of information the CRM will provide, as well as reducing the time and complication. And sorry, we can't answer that question because I need to speak to Sam about it. Where you'll know exactly what Sam said on Friday, and you'll have a copy of the quote that they created. So the value of that information in the system is what's really key, rather than notes on a desk or it's stored in someone's email. And historically they're chasing each other around trying to work out that kind of information. So with the CRM function, it runs from inquiries through the sales order process into projects and job management where we actually make the product. Flowlens refers to assets, which are not financial assets. It just means that we can create a serial number for that item and track it through its life cycle. We obviously have the stock and parts and all the detailed requirements so that we can go through purchase ordering through Flowlens so that we can see lead times and manage that. And that's really important at the moment in our current COVID environment where imports are taking so much longer than they have done previously. Managing that supply chain is becoming really crucial. And then we have the servicing solution sort of on the end of that. So we've sold them a piece of agricultural equipment. Every 6 months it needs servicing because it will be full of dust and dirt and grime. So then we can create that service and track the life cycle of the services, who did it, what they did, what we replaced, what's likely to need replaced at the annual service or the 2-year service, so that we can then assign those parts and manage that process really efficiently. And that's where the value add across having the CRM, the inventory management and the servicing all in one place. However, for our audience, that's probably mostly accountants in the room, the reporting features are really, really good in Flowlens. It gives us the ability to view them by group of activity. So if I just jump to the finance reports, I've got the ability to favorite reports similarly to Xero with the blue star in Xero, it's orange for Flowlens. And I can favorite my reports that I can run each month to ascertain the information I need at the end of a month. But importantly for the business owner, they will be able to run reports to see information real time, live in a live environment without having to be proficient in Xero or interfering, depending on how we look at it, to be able to see that information. So it definitely creates a really nice way to view that information. And the other thing that I think is really nice in the way it appears is that they have these headline numbers in all of the inquiry screens. So really at a glance, I can see how many leads have been won, what's been lost, what's currently open, what the total value is, what my average value sale is, without having to run any kind of report have any kind of information whatsoever. So it's really user friendly. It has a lot of customization, and that's part of the reason that a supported implementation is crucial. The settings list is extensive, and we can set it up to provide the information that that business really needs. And I think that's really, really important in the process. So that's really just my jump into Flowlens. What I'd like to share with you now is a client story. So as I said, the solution is really new in Australia. We have 3 businesses currently using it here. In the UK, obviously, it's extensively used, and JCS Nuclear Solutions provided their case study to us to be able to kind of explain from a client's perspective. So JCS were advised by their accountants to look at cloud options after their in-house accountant retired. They researched the options, they talked to their peers, they talked to their accountants and bookkeepers, and they received a number of recommendations. What they chose to do was to settle on 2, and then work with the consultants to work through their processes on those systems and involve the team. And I think particularly in this space that the team members are engineers, so they like process, they like systems, they want to understand how everything works. So it's really important that they're involved and engaged so that the change is most successful. And then they understood their internal processes need to change to adapt to the system to some extent, like not everything fit. And therefore, from that, they made a selection for which of the systems worked best, which obviously in this case was Flowlens. And it was really important for them to provide the whole team to try the systems and look at the things they could live with that didn't work the way they wanted to, the things that worked better than they expected. And then they made a decision as a whole organization. And because they had that buy-in, everyone was committed to that process change, and it was really a successful implementation. So just to sort of summarize the Flowlens offering, it's highly customizable, integrated and user-friendly way to take control of the sales pipeline, production and servicing of the manufacturing business. It's designed for high-value equipment manufacturers and distributors. It has real-time live reporting with easy access to information you need when you need it as an owner or as their accountant. Subscriptions start from just $3.95 a month. And what they offer is a concurrent user relationship. So you can have 6 named users, but 3 users in the system at any one time. So that works really nicely if you've got an accountant that you'd like to give access to, but obviously they're probably only going to log in once a month. So you can just share that without having to pay a full license for them. And obviously there's stepped up subscriptions from there, depending on the number of users. Implementation projects range from $12.50 initial startup for a small business to full service on-site implementation projects, supporting your clients to change their processes. And that's the service we offer here in Australia and New Zealand. And pretty much that's it for now. I really wanted to keep it kind of clear and concise and fairly direct. I think I'm within my 20-minute time zone. So hopefully I've answered all your questions, and I'm happy to have a discussion from here as to anything, any questions anyone has, or if you would like to reach out to me, the QR code, or you can find me just invisiblebusinesssolutions.com.au.
Thank you so much, Helen, for that presentation. That was sensational. And I do like how your QR code has your image in it as well. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Very technical. I have a couple of questions for you, and if anyone else in the audience has a question, feel free to put your hand up or join on the screen, or pop them in the chat area. I'm interested to know, as you will be aware, Trade Gecko is currently being sunsetted, and so a lot of people are looking for another solution. What I'm hearing, that this is probably not a solution that they should consider.
No, I would say not at all. Generally, Trade Gecko had worked really nicely with Shopify integrations. Obviously, when it was acquired by QuickBooks Commerce and changed its branding last year, what I expected would happen is that they would just cease connecting to Xero, which they did. And then I warned a number of clients that perhaps there would be the risk that they wouldn't be able to connect to Xero moving forward, and they should start looking at alternatives. The alternatives, in my view, unleashed with some setup, depending on the type of business that went to Trade Gecko, unleashed with some setup so that we can integrate sales and batch transactions to Xero. Sin 7 or DEAR are pretty much, and Flowlens wouldn't fit into that. And they and I would not recommend it to anybody that it's not suitable for. And that's part of the service I've offered for 5 or 6 years as part of the integration channel, is to look at the business and make a recommendation of software. I'm not in the business of selling anyone's software. I make recommendations for what's right for a business that's moving to the cloud. And at the end of the day, it's not in the app's interest either, because if we pick a software that doesn't fit their needs, they're going to say the software is rubbish, and that's not great for the software provider. So by providing the right recommendation for the right software, whether that's one I could implement or not, it's definitely part of the service I've offered for a number of years now.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much for answering that question. Now, does anyone else have a question they would like to ask Helen? I do have another question for you. As you were going through the infrastructure of Flowlens, I saw an asset register there. So what would happen there? Would you stop using the Xero asset register and rely on the Flowlens asset?
No, and it's a really good question and a nice pickup. So it's not, they use asset, and it's probably not in a financial sense at all. They mean it's a valuable piece of equipment, so an asset. So it's the actual product they make that we give a serial number to. It's not a financial asset or a financial asset register at all. So a really good distinction, because it's one of the things that I think potentially could confuse accountants and bookkeepers and think, because it's not a financial asset register at all. No.
Okay, well, there you go.
Well done. You see, this is why you're good host, because you pick up the things. And we had a similar discussion in ServiceMate. They have an asset register too, and they don't mean that in a financial asset perspective either from the business. It's a very similar situation, that it's an asset of the business that it has produced, that is individually tracked, and that's how Flowlens interpret it too.
Yeah, it can get confusing when these things happen, definitely.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you very much for that answer, Helen. Now, does anyone have any other questions for Helen? No? Okay.
Everybody's shy today. Or maybe my presentation just answered everybody's questions. I'm not sure which.
I think the presentation helps them understand what sort of solutions, if they come across them, what they should be looking for. And there's not been many manufacturing solutions in the community that I've seen. So when people put manufacturing, I'm just like, I don't know where you should be going. So at least now there's something that they should potentially explore. How would you, if a bookkeeper or an accountant came to you and said, look, I need you to assess whether this is suitable for my manufacturing client, how does that relationship look?
So it's an independent relationship. So I would happily talk with the bookkeeper and the client about what they're looking for, and that's obviously a free conversation at the outset. But then what we recommend is a deep process dive, and that's got value for the business in terms of looking at where their bottlenecks are, what the challenges are, because often they think the problem is one thing, but it's actually something else. And that's usually a half-day kind of session, reviewing their processes. We need all the key people of the business in a room, and we run through those processes. Now, if as a result of that, we establish that Flowlens is the best solution for them, then we proceed to a trial and an implementation project from there. But that real definition of whether it's going to meet their needs is absolutely critical. And it's actually a process I use for any inventory management solution, because at the end of the day, you can do a free trial of Unleashed or DEAR or whatever, but without knowing what you do in your business and how that fits with the software, you can spend an awful lot of time wasting your time trying to figure that out. Whereas if you talk to an expert, we can shortcut all that for you.
Absolutely. Oh, well, if there's no more questions, I'll give it a few seconds. If there's no more questions, I'd like to thank you, Helen, for joining us today. Everyone can see from the slide there how they can get in contact with you, and I have put that in the chat area as well. Thank you so much, Helen, for joining us today. People know how to get in contact with you, and we really appreciate you sharing that with the community.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.